Heroes Book Nook. I am Courtney, and today we are going to go over my April reading. To start off with, I participated in 3 readathons this month. We did the Aurelium Academy over with G at Book Roast. We also did Realmathon with Cassidy at Covers with Cassidy. And we also did Spring Flingaween with the lovely Olivia and Gabby over at Olivia Reads a Latte and Gabby Reads. To get into it, we started our month off strong. We did Ice Planet Barbarians. We read books 2 through 11 and 1 novella. They were pretty good. I think I gave most of them 3 stars. Going through the characters was kind of cool, just seeing like how everybody was integrating into this new world and how everybody was just adjusting to the new planet, how the people that were already there were adjusting to the new humans. My favorite ones that I have read so far out of that would be Planet Holiday, which is number 5, just seeing how the humans integrated some of our holiday traditions up onto the new planet. And then I also loved Barbarian's Touch, which is number 8. I loved the incorporation of her being deaf and how everybody had a hard time of communicating with her, and her overcoming the struggles, and her mate overcoming the struggle on how to communicate with her as well. And then number 11, Barbarian's Hope. I just liked the message that it gave. I don't know, it was just pretty good. I really liked that one. And then we went into The Dragon's Bride by Katie Roberts. This one was definitely a wild ride. It was pretty good. The smut was pretty okay. I wish the world had a little bit more into it, because I actually did like that aspect of the world, but we didn't get much into it. Next up, I read Blood Legacy by Jen L. Gray. This is the second book in the Wolf Moon Academy. It's about Mia and I believe his name is Liam. In the first book, we go through a very, very hate-to-love relationship. In this one, they are newly mated, and they're going through just some struggles on their own, and kind of going through, if I go through everything, it will definitely spoil the trilogy. But I really, really, really liked it. Next, we read A Shadow in the Ember by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the first book in the A Flesh and Fire series. This is the prequel to From Blood and Ash. Pretty much it's kind of going through like some of the history of From Blood and Ash. If I say too much, it'll give away some of A War of Two Queens, which I also read this month. This is the 4th book in From Blood and Ash series. I really, really, really loved this book a lot. This is probably my second favorite out of the series. The first book is definitely a favorite. I didn't really care for the other 2, but this one I really, really, really loved. Next up, we also read Rising Fate by Jen L. Gray. Again, this is the 3rd book in the Wolf Moon Academy. Again, it's following Mia and Liam on their journey through life and everything that is going on. Read the first book if you want to know what's going on, because it goes through a lot, and it's a really, really good series, especially if you like shifters. Next up, we read Peeps by Scott Westerfeld. This is the first book in the Peeps series. It's about parasites, pretty much how this parasite goes through and causes vampirism and everything, and it's kind of a cool scientific twist on vampirism, and I actually really, really loved it. Next up, we read Granny's Got a Gun and Granny's Undercover. I read both of these for Olivia's cozy book option on her Patreon book club, and I actually really liked them. They're very, very, very cute, and I will probably continue reading in the series. Next up, we read The Last Wish. This is the first book in the Witcher series. I didn't really get into it as thought as I would, but I did like it, just not as much as I thought I was going to. I am going to continue in the series and probably try to watch the show. I gave this about a 3-star. Next up, we read It Happened One Summer and Hook, Line, and Sinker. The first book, I didn't really relate much to Piper. I did love Brendan's storyline. I did really like that Brendan kind of calmed Piper down at the end, and it was a cute story, I'm not gonna lie. Hook, Line, and Sinker, I did really like Hannah and Fox's story. The ending, I didn't like as much. But I did relate to this one a lot more, and I'm kind of hoping we see a little bit more of these two. Next up, we read 9 Lives by Peter Swanson. I like the premise of this. I kind of wish we would have gotten a little more into it and a little more just kind of journey through this list. I did not like the ending. I thought it was kind of cliche. It definitely followed along with And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, which I really, really did not like that book. So I think that's why the ending was kind of a little salty for me. It was definitely a 3 because I really, really liked it up until probably the last couple chapters in it. Next up, we read The Troop by Nick Cutter. This one is a book club pick for Olivia Reads Latte's Patreon, and I liked it, but I didn't. It's definitely got a lot of triggers for people. It's definitely very gruesome. There was a couple spots that I didn't know if I really wanted to continue listening to it, but I got through it. It was very, very gruesome. It was one of those, like, you gotta keep reading just to see, like, what happens in the end. I think without the aspect of the grossness and a couple of the story elements, I think I would have given it a 4 or 5 star, but I did do 3 stars on that one. Next up, we started the Wicked Villains series by Katie Roberts. I've wanted to dive into this series for a while now. We started with Desperate Measures, which really wasn't to my liking as much, but I did love the Jafar aspect of it. He's definitely one of my favorites. Next up, we went with Learn My Lesson. This one was probably my second least favorite in the series. And then we went with A Worthy Opponent. I really liked Hook. Tink is not my favorite in this storyline, unfortunately. And then we went with The Beast. I did not like Isabel's character in this one. I did really love The Beast and Gaetan in it. I gave the first book 2 stars and the next 3 stars. Next up, we read Rapsodic by Laura Salasa. I actually really enjoyed this one. This is about Calypso. She's a siren. Something happens in the very beginning of the book where she calls the bargainer and makes a deal with him and then continues making deals and deals and deals until something happened and he disappears out of her life for 7 years. And then he comes back into her life. Everything gets messed up and complicated, and I really liked it. I'm currently reading the second book as we speak. Then we read All Her Little Secrets by Wanda Morris. This one, I really like the premise of the story. The ending, I think, could have been a little bit better. I think my favorite aspect of the whole entire book was the correlation between the past and the present and how the stories interconnect with each other at the end. Just the ending was a little bit too dull for me and how everything kind of came together at the end. I think it could have been done a little bit better, but it was still about a 3-4 star for me. Next up, we read The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. This is my second book that I read from her. I did read The Sundown Motel at the very end of March in the first day of April. I really, really like that one, so I wanted to dive into some of her other works, and this is probably my second favorite book from her. I loved the storyline. I loved everything about this book. Next up, we listened to Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. I really, really, really loved it. It was spooky, and it was just kind of everything I needed in a thriller horror book. It's my very first Riley Sager book, and I definitely will be continuing with his work and hopefully liking all the other ones as well. Next up, we read We Were Never Here by Andrea Bartz. This one was a roller coaster ride. I absolutely love this book. It was everything that I needed in it. The first, I want to say about 40 pages were not really all that enticing. Like, they ran a little slow for me, but after that it really picked up. The last 100 pages, I could not put this book down. Like, it really caught me, my emotions and everything. And very lastly, we read A Heart of Blood and Ashes by Mila Vayne. This is the first book in A Gathering of Dragons series. This one I thought I was really gonna like just because, well, the cover, and it says dragons. But I don't know, I just really didn't like it as much as I thought. It was definitely about a 3.5, 4 stars still. I'm kind of hoping the second book redeems it a little bit better for me. This one is about Maddox. His parents are murdered and he vows revenge. One of the other realms has a princess, and he kind of kidnaps her, and she kind of is like, hey, let's get married, let's kill my father, let's have revenge. Also, they start falling in love with each other, and I don't know, like, it could have been a little bit better for me, just the storyline and all of that, but it was still pretty good. And I think that's about it for my... So, in total, for the month of April, I read 34 books. 26 of those were audio books, 5 of them were physical books, and 3 of them were ebooks. In total, for page counts, we had 7,831 pages. This is definitely my biggest reading month to this date, and I'm kind of hoping that we continue on it, or at least continue reading as much as I have. Audiobooks are definitely a huge lifesaver for me. And I think that's about it for today. So have a wonderful day, and thank you for coming. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.